about that? This is about saying goodbye. For pastors and for laity, I believe that once an appointment is made, wilderness is going to take place. Meaning that the pastor is living between two places. And I think Ann's exercise for us was really good. Because we're not fully where we are, but we haven't come to where we will be. So biblically speaking, where are we? In the wilderness. In the wilderness. Is this a bad place to be? No. Is it a great place to be? No. That's why they call it wilderness. Wilderness is who do you have to rely on? God. But who else is in the wilderness? We know this story. Snakes and scorpions, thank you very much. And what? And manna. Yeah, you get a great diet. No more potluck suppers for you. Until you get to the promised land. That's what we're going to say. Experiencing wilderness was a very important thing. You've heard this joke before, that Moses, if he had stopped and asked for directions, it would have taken a week. And that's probably true. But he was asking for directions. Who was he asking directions from? God. And what was God's direction to Moses and to the people? It is the formation of a new nation, a new people, a new heart. You aren't who you were, you are who you will be. Okay. Now, where this analogy falls is that we are not leaving slavery in Egypt. We could be leaving the most wonderful place we've ever been. But the important thing is to experience wilderness and not to rush on too quickly, because what you do, and the reason they took 40 years, what you will do is take who you were in your old place and simply try to transplant it into the new place, and it won't hold. It simply won't hold. Many lay people come to me and say, who's from Arlington here? Great. Arlington is in Arlington, Massachusetts as well. There was a guy who moved from Arlington to Lexington. You know Lexington, 18th of April in 75, Paul Revere, all of that stuff. Moved to Lexington. For the first year, mentioned Arlington in every single one of his sermons. And I was doing work with him, and he said, "Can you tell him he lives in Lexington now?" And I said, "Why don't you tell him?" He said, "We did." It's really hard to start experiencing wilderness after you've been there for a year. Do it now. Do it now. And what I said to him is, "Can you say the word Lexington?" "Well, sure I can." "Lexington." "Yeah." "Can you say North Pole?" "Yeah, North Pole." "Say Lexington." Lexington. Where are you from? Arlington. Lexington. Manitowoc. How'd I do that? How do you begin to say that name with the same knowledge? What do you need to know to say the new place so you don't trip over it, or it doesn't sound like just a point on a map? You know? I mean, I used to say, because this is as far north as I'm going to get without going to Canada or to visit the apostles. You know, where are you going? I'm going to Stevens Point. Wouldn't you go? I said that 3 years ago because the district is good enough to make a reservation for two, my wife and myself. And she said, "Well, where are you going?" "You just going up to Madison?" I said, "No, I'm going up into the middle part of the state." "How far up is that?" "About 4.5 hours. She said, "You'll be in Canada." Well, what's it called? to come with me? You hear what I'm saying? The wilderness is about looking forward to the new promised land. It's about being in a place of disorientation and letting go. It's not about working 7 days a week, every week between now and the end of your appointment there. You need to take Sabbath. If you have a family, what's really quite crucial is that they're leaving too, but they don't get the attention that you do as pastors. My wife used to say to me, what am I, just arm candy? Well, what did they invite me to do? First transition, she was in her late 20s. She did get invited to things. 3 United Methodist Women's Circles, youngest member of the circle, 75. She said, and genuinely, I've got 30 mothers. And genuinely, I mean, that was very positive. I said, and your issue? She said, it was a struggle enough to leave my own mother to get married to you. Is there nobody here my age for that kind of thing? Who are you as a family? It's a time of reconnection. My parents always loved it when I got reappointed. They said, because it's always the time you come home. Isn't that nice? Except for the fact that I always felt guilty, too, because therefore I didn't come home enough when I was working at the church. But it's an important time. Who are you without that church? The church has got similar work to do. Who am I that God called me again, where I'm not identified with that particular church, but as a called person? Who am I in the relationship that I have to my family? Because this isn't about, and this isn't about just being in a job. Our whole families get involved in this, and that's important for us to get. So experience that wilderness. Remembering that there is a beginning to this and there is an end to this, but you're in the middle. St. Paul's writings are very helpful in what they focus on in terms of our formation in the wilderness. Okay? If you're single, or if you are receiving a pastor who is single, and they want to have, they have relationships that are formative, ask about those and how those get nurtured. Okay? When I went to my first church seminary, I was a single person, lived in the parsonage. I was out in a very rural area, and the person who was closest to me in age was 8 years older than I was. And the pressure on her was unbearable. So she didn't speak to me until I got married, which was wise, because there are ethical issues now about dating people in your congregation. But if this person has a significant other, you probably need to know that they may want to see them from time to time. You know as well as I do that clergy spouses are not made because all of a sudden the clergy, with God's approval, touches the ground and here they are. And you know in your own life that if they have a significant other, they may want to see them from time to time. And probably in their pastoral ministry, they would say the same to you about family. So think about those things together. Plan early for rituals of goodbye. Don't postpone them to June 28th. Talk about them now. And try to have a ritual that is meaningful to the relationship itself, who you are together as a people. And for pastors, I've heard too many phone calls that come to me from leading lay people that I know, which is the pastor won't let us plan a party. They want to do it all by themselves. Oh, please. This is about relationships. Or the pastor wants us to plan everything and won't say anything about what she wants. But it's really clear that we want to give her something that would be meaningful to her. So be cooperative about leave taking. It's very, very important. I've said enough about United Methodist being connectional. I really think it's important that the new pastor, with the blessing of the current pastor, meets with the staff or leading lay people. As the current pastor, please don't hesitate to mention your successor in a good way. Sometimes that's not easy, and I don't mean that because we're cruel. I sat on the board of the ordained ministry. I know, hiss, boo, hiss. I sat on the board of the ordained ministry. You know, we make the decisions as to who is brought into the collegium, and we'll find better ways of saying that there are probably other callings that you should pursue. We're not that good at that, but I was there, and I was the chair of one of the committees. And unfortunately, this person who was coming through, we had to say no to him. Twice. And I got the draw to be the chair of his committee. The cabinet forgot that when they were making appointments, and he was appointed to be my successor. And so the question came, can you tell us about our new pastor? He only knows 1.5 persons of the Trinity? I'm glad that I didn't just blurt that out. It would not have been helpful at all. And one does not deceive. So I called him. And I called the superintendent. And the superintendent said, what, you don't like the appointment? I said, my opinion about the appointment is irrelevant, because it is. What gifts did you see in him for this church? I really need to know. And so we talked for a while, and then I called him, and et cetera, et cetera. It was very, very important to know, and he had a pretty good ministry there. But that's very, very important because there is a future, and we need to talk about that together. Okay? Anyway, so that's part of all of this. Oh, and then lunch. I did that pretty well. Any questions? Yeah, they're still bringing it in. But any questions about this? Is this helpful to you? One of the things that's wonderful is that you're laughing. Except for when you cry. But isn't that true? In all of our transitions of life, if you actually touch the life that's going on, you will find both of those passions living right beside each other. Okay? And that's what this is really all about. The other thing to remember, I think, is very important, and that is the church is of God. And God is perfect love. But as the hymn goes, for all the saints, when we talk about the saints that have gone to God, who are restored in glory, remember who we are? We're the ones who are still struggling, and they in glory shine. We have an expectation and a hope of the church that it is the perfect church in the mind of God. And the reality is, we're struggling through the best we can with the systems that we have tried to faithfully put in place. They've carried our denomination and the way we do our work to all of the corners of the earth, and they spread the prevenient grace of God and God's love. To me, that's the most important thing. When I come to a meeting like this and I see students that I've known for years, laity that I've seen here more than once, who have struggled through sometimes difficult, sometimes wonderful moments. We have those tragedies that are very, very difficult for us. Or we struggle through general conflicts. We're still not sure what happened.
Amen.
And the Twitter sphere, all of my colleagues, I mean, we all learned how to use Twitter, and I didn't know that I could do anything in 144 words. But the critical issue, I think, at base root is, what is the gift of the church? And why did Jesus Christ become the head of that church? In a far-off place, in a dusty little room, where the Holy Spirit spread through, that same Spirit got us all here today. I got out of bed at 4 o'clock this morning to be with you, because I knew that this would be a wonderful time together in very difficult situations of transition. Although we have joy, there are difficulties. But through it all, there's a reason why we're all still here. There's a reason why, as church people, we laugh together, even during difficult times. There's a reason. And I would say to all of us, that's what we need to stay focused on. That is the sure rock, which is the love of God in Jesus Christ, that gives us hope for today and tomorrow, for all eternity. Nothing will prevail against us. That's the assurance of Scripture. If we stand on that rock and cling together to that hope. And I think that's why you're all still here, and you will gather tomorrow in your sanctuaries and sing praise.